C of O, also known as Certificate of Occupancy, is the most talked about land title in this part of the world, in Lagos especially. Is C of O final or not? My name is Uche Hebuzo, and in this video, I'm going to be answering that question for you. And I'll urge you to watch this video to the end. It's going to be a brief one. And if this is your first time on my channel, kindly click the subscription button and turn on your notification bell so that you do not miss my weekly videos. So what is C of O? C of O is a legal proof of ownership issued by government of a state to an individual upon purchase of a piece of land. And this ownership has a duration of 99 years. So it's safe to say it is not a full ownership. It is a lease, since it has a lifespan. Now, two other documents I will be mentioning in this video are deed of assignment and governor's consent. Now, what is deed of assignment? Deed of assignment is the document that shows transfer of ownership from the seller to the buyer, while governor's consent is a document where the government consents to you perfecting your title in your name upon purchasing a land that probably had a C of O. So is C of O final? Does it solve all your problems? Should you go to bed and sleep with two eyes closed upon purchase of a property with C of O? The answer is yes. However, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to property transactions, anything that is so good, so profitable can go wrong if due diligence is not paramount. Now, your certificate of occupancy is final if and only if there's a legal acquisition of that land. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you a few ways you can acquire a property and that has a C of O, or you can acquire a property that didn't have a C of O and you go apply for a C of O and it still becomes null and void. So what do I mean by having a legal acquisition? You can buy a piece of land. If you do not do your due diligence, you may have bought a piece of land that was also sold to someone previously who was also given a deed of assignment without you finding out. And you didn't find out because you didn't do your due diligence. Now, upon purchasing that land, you decide to perfect it by getting a C of O. That C of O can be null and void, because when the seller was signing the deed of assignment for you, that land was not his any longer, because he had done the same to probably one or two people before you. Now, on the other hand, you could also acquire a piece of land that originally had a C of O, and you did not check the transfer history of the land. It is possible the land had an issue, had a defective title. Remember my first example, I cited where you bought a land that didn't have a C of O and you went ahead to get a C of O on it without knowing it was already sold to people previously. Now, assuming you succeeded in getting that C of O and you sold it to another person and another person, so you can imagine. So this is why you need the services of a lawyer before you purchase any land. You need the services of a lawyer, a good lawyer, because transfer history of any piece of land is very important in land acquisition. Because if you buy a property that has a defective title, it will affect you. You will lose. That's why you see some lands have litigation hanging on them for a very long time. You will lose. So you might as well avoid such problems. So another thing that can make your C of O not to be final is when you buy a piece of land from someone who co-owned the land with either a spouse or a friend or a business partner, any land that belongs to more than one person, that is legally for more than one person. So what it means is that he has more than one name on the deed of assignment, cannot be sold by one person, because the land is not 100% yours, so you cannot sell the land alone. So if such land is eventually sold, anytime the co-owner finds out and sues you, the person is going to get the land back, because it's assumed that the land was never sold. See, so another thing that can put you into jeopardize your transaction is, this is not very common, but is happening these days, is buying land that was done, the documentation was done on wrong coordinates. Yes, it has started happening in this town. This one is very common with lands with governor's consent. Governor's consent means the land already has a C of O and you decide to perfect it in your own name. By the way, certificate of occupancy is not issued twice on any piece of land. So once you buy a land that has a C of O and you want to perfect the title, perfecting it means you want it in your own name, then you'll be going for governor's consent. Now, there are some people who have taken wrong coordinates to Land Bureau. And because probably Land Bureau, who originally is supposed to send their rep to confirm those coordinates, didn't do so for whatever reason, that governor's consent can be issued on wrong coordinates. Now, wrong coordinates does not mean the coordinates don't exist. It means the coordinates are not exactly for that same piece of land. Now, you go ahead, you buy the land, it has governor's consent. A few years down the line, you find out that your governor's consent is not even tied to the particular piece of land that you're buying. Look, I hope this video is useful to you. All I'm preaching here is your C of O, which is a great title, is a very, very good title you should have on your documents. However, it can also put you into trouble if you do not do due diligence. You need the services of a good lawyer that knows his way around properties, to check transfer history of any piece of land. Also, to make sure you go to Land Bureau to check the coordinates properly. If you like, you can get the services of an estate surveyor, because they are very good with coordinates. These are the things you should do because they are worth it, so that you do not lose a lot of money, or so that you do not end up with litigation that is avoidable. My name is Uche. If this video has been useful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your bell notification so that you do not miss my next video come next Monday at 6 p.m. Thank you very much.